pressure I feel growing inside of me because I'm far away from you, knowing that you are my source, so I gotta find my way.
All right. All right. You gotta find my way back to you, Lord. Gotta find my way back. Find my way back home, where we all belong. And that soundtrack comes from the musical project, a tribute to the general, and is sung by none other than my friend Ephraim Daniels. And good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to today's session as we explore another workbook lesson out of A Course in Miracles. My name is Oliver Blue. I am your temporary guide, your temporary coach, and most importantly, I am your permanent brother. I am your permanent self. And I am so delighted to be here for today's session, as we'll be looking into workbook lesson number 160. We are almost at the halfway mark. But we are making our way back home, back to, like the song said, gotta find my way back to you, Lord. And we have found the way back to our first love. And that way is the way of truth that never changes, that is never altered. And in our discoveries, as we continue to stay in this process of being transformed from this world way of thinking, undoing the conformity of this world and being transformed to the truth by the renewing of our minds with the truth. That is the way. That is the path. That is the way and the path of life. That we recognize that we are forever in the presence of truth. We are forever in the presence of our reality. We just need to recognize it. Enlightenment is but a recognition. Awakening is but to recognize. Our healing comes through but a recognition. Because everything is already present. And so it is good news to hear that how simple God's plan for salvation is. And that God guarantees that his plan is the only plan that will work. And God guarantees that within that plan, all of us at our appointed time will eventually wake up to the truth, to the recognition of our oneness with God and with each other. And so until it becomes something that is unnecessary, we do the work. We do the work. We carry the vision. We carry Christ's vision, which is all inclusive, which is all encompassing, where it is our function and our purpose. It's our role to hold this vision of oneness for all of humanity, for the entire body of humanity, for all that God has created, all living things. We have the capacity to hold this truth for everyone and everything. And that is absolutely a miracle. But these are the gifts. This is what have been given unto us. And that which we given, with that which we have given, that which we have received, that's what we have, that's what we give. And that which we give cycles back or circulates back to us, because it is this one act of love. Giving and receiving is the same. What we give, we receive. What we receive, we give. It's an eternal flow of love. It's an eternal state of oneness, an eternal state of bliss and glory, an eternal state of infinite awareness, infinite intelligence. There's nothing missing and nothing broken in our reality. And we're so glad about that. And I am so glad that you're here joining me in this joyous time of, though we are taking a course, though we're learning, it's almost like we're in a classroom, but it's a joyous place to be growing and expanding our consciousness and our awareness with the truth that is true always. And so as we look into today's lesson, lesson 160, the title of, or the idea shared with us today is, I am at home. I am at home. Notice now, anytime a statement is prefaced with the two words I am simply represents that which God has created. I am is just a symbol or metaphor or a statement referencing to that which God has created. And we've already learned that what God creates is changeless and formless and timeless and eternal and of one law and knowledge in its reality. It's the truth. It's unambiguous. It can be recognized or it can be unrecognized. It says that which God creates is reality. Only God creates reality, nothing else. What we've learned here is that which God creates is beyond learning. It is to be known, but it's beyond learning. Learning is a time-space concept. It's a perceptual world concept. It's a limited concept. Well, it's a temporary idea. It's not permanent. That which in heaven, that which has remained the same, doesn't need to learn. It just is. And we've also learned that what God creates has no opposites. It has no beginning. It has no ends. It merely is. So we're talking about the isness. When you hear the word I am, you're talking about the isness of God, or you're talking about the essence of God. And the isness and the essence of God is that which he extends, that which he creates. And he calls it the I am, which is what we are. We are God's extension. We are God's offsprings. We are God's, in natural term, called children. We are what God has extended. We are what God is because God can only extend like unto himself. So whatever image you have of God, or whatever image you have of a creator, is the image that you're holding for yourself. You cannot hold a different image of your creator than you hold for yourself. You cannot hold a different image of your brother or sister that you don't hold for yourself. And so when we see declarations or statements that are prefaced with the word I am, it is talking about the original creation of God, which includes you and me and every living thing. And so it says, I am at home. Notice now it says, I am at home, meaning I am remains as it was created. We've learned in previous lessons that the principle that is unchangeable and unalterable is the reality that we remain as God created us. We cannot change ourselves. And the self that I'm talking about is the self that God created, that which was created before there was form and before there was time. So I'm not talking about our body identification. That is not who we are. I'm not talking about that I that has a birth date, born into a family, born in a body, and has created activities in a timeline up until now. That's not the identity I'm talking about. I'm talking about that you that God said that existed before you was formed in your mother and daddy's womb. I'm talking about the original of originals. That is what is changeless and unalterable, timeless and formless, eternal and reality. Its knowledge is truth. No beginning, no end. Therefore, no what? No birth, no death. And so this awareness of a body with a name like Oliver, that is all happening within. That's all only possible within what? The mind of God. And so that's why we can boldly say that God is our only reality, because there's God and there's nothing else. There's nothing else. And so within God, God created or extended himself. So therefore, whatever he extended is still himself. That's why we are entitled with the title of what? The heirs of God, or what? I am. I am, because God is, and there's nothing else. Therefore, I am. Therefore, we share the same consciousness, the same awareness. We share the same life, the same being that God is. And I'll keep saying it and keep saying it and keep saying it. There's a reason behind that. That's the reason that the Course keeps going back to that. In this is the memory of God. In this is the memory of your true self. And so it says, at home is where I am. I am at home. That means we remain what? In the heart of God. We remain one with our Creator, because what ideas leave not their source. And we've learned that what? We are an idea of God, or we are a thought of God. Or in reality, we are every thought of God. We're every thought of God. So how does God think about itself? That is what we are. But the question is now, how do you think about yourself? Who do you say that you are? Adam, Eve, where are you? That's the question. Oh, don't answer that question unless you answer it from a place of truth. Don't answer that question unless you answer it from the place of the original, from a place of where it's unaltered, where it's changeless. We all know the story of God, the creation story where God came into the garden in the cool of the day. And the voice that speaks for God said, Adam's where, and asked Adam and Eve the question, said, Adam, where are you? And you know what Adam's response to that was? Adam said, I was afraid. So Adam had somehow matriculated into a place of fear. But it wasn't what God created. And so, in order for Adam to matriculate into a place of fear, being an unchanging creation, he would have to fall into a trance or a dream or an hallucination or a fantasy because he can't change himself. So he had to fall into a dream and make of himself something else. Thus, you see the world we have created with all these billions of beings wandering around in false identification, trying to find their way back to you, Lord. That's why we played the song. So thank you for being here. Truly Live is a place. Truly Foundation, this nonprofit organization that is responsible for these workbook lessons, for this project. This is a place where you can come and feast on the knowledge of the truth. This is a place. This is a signpost. This is a pointer to point you into the reality that everything that you are is unchangeable and unalterable, and it's within you. It's not out there. It's just within you. And that's good news. And that's why we're here. To be a voice, to be a voice to bring the message of truth to all humanity. And we're absolutely thrilled to be and grateful to be in this position, to share the good news, to be the light of the world. Yes, to perform our function as the Savior of the world. Yes, we are here in 2022. This is our unique expression. And we're glad. We're glad. All the world is invited. And we're glad you're here. It says, to finish that off, there's two parts to this lesson for today. It says, I am home. And we understand that now, that we have not left our home. We remain as God created us. It says, fear is the stranger. Fear is the stranger here. I'm not the stranger. I'm at home. This is my place of reality. It says, fear is the stranger. And so today we're going to be looking into this. What does this mean? Fear is the stranger. And so, like every other lesson that we have embarked upon in this course, this particular lesson, just like all the other ones, this course goes directly, or this lesson goes directly to the core. It goes right directly to the cause of all suffering, heartache, and pain. All human suffering, all human heartache, and all human pain. This course or this lesson today will go directly to the cause of that. And the cause of that is the cause of all of human suffering and pain and sorrow and heartache is our thinking, or is wrong thinking, or thinking wrongly. Having a false idea about who we are is what will cause tremendous suffering, tremendous pain, and tremendous heartache. And so this course, I love it. So I love it, along with other spiritual material. I love the Bible. I love the Way of Mastery. I love all Rupert Sparrow's work. I love all spiritual work that brings this revelation to light of who we really are. And so we're going to look right dead in the eye of fear today and see what this stranger, see what this strange idea is all about. And so it says, fear is a stranger to the ways of love. Fear is a stranger to the way of love. Wow. I like that. Fear is a stranger to the ways of love. In other words, love has no acquaintances. with fear. Love is not acquainted with fear. So fear is a stranger to the ways of love. And when we say, let's look at what Merriam-Webster say about stranger. It says a stranger is a guest or a visitor or an intruder, one that is unknown or with whom one is unacquainted. So a stranger is one that we're unacquainted with or unknown to. Can be recognized as a guest or visitor or an intruder. Because a stranger, for instance, like you go to a hotel and you spend the night in a hotel. Well, you're a stranger, but you're not intruding as you go through the desk and register and get your room. The people are not familiar with you, but they're not acquainted with you, but they allowed you to to be there. Or a visitor, like we go to maybe we go to a museum, or we go to some public place which allowed us to go in and view whatever's on display. We're visitors. And visitors mean what? That means eventually you're not going to stay. That's not your home. Just like the guests, that's not your home. You're going to leave. You know that. You've been graced to be there for a moment. And then it says that strangers sometimes come in the form of intruders, where they just barge themselves in. They don't go to the front desk. They just go and take over the place. That's the way the ego works sometimes. It barges into our awareness through these thoughts, these strange and weird alien thoughts. When we didn't ask for it, it just come right into your purview. You know how thoughts do sometimes. They just pop up in your head and you say, oh, where did that thought come from? But that's an intruder. And just think, we will hold only the thoughts that we think with God. And God doesn't intrude upon us. God does not intrude our presence. God is our presence. And so God waits until we're quiet. God waits till we're settled down. And normally that's when the voice of God speaks very gently, not roughshod, not intruding our space. Doesn't have the intention to be a visitor or a guest, because he's not. But he speaks to us gently. That's why the Course says that the ego generally, it speaks first, and it speaks loud. That's an indication that is not the voice for God. So it says fear is a stranger. Fear is the one that's That's the stranger, the intruder, to the ways of love. Doesn't know love. Love doesn't know it. It says, identify with fear, and you will be a stranger to yourself. In other words, become acquainted with fear, then you will disacquaint yourself with your true self, because love and fear are antithetical. Love and fear cannot coexist. Your reality and the unreality of fear can't coexist. It says, and thus you are unknown to you. What is your self, your true self? What is your God-created self? Remains an alien to the part of you which thinks that it is real, but different from yourself. Who could be sane in such a circumstance? Who could be sane in such an idea that which is alien to us, that which is a stranger to us, we entertain it as ourself? It says that could be a sane He said, who could be sane in that circumstance? It's like being a schizophrenic. No, this is who I am. No, this is who I am. No, this is who I am. This is who I am. Oh, no, this is who we are. It says, who but a madman could believe that he is what he is not? Because it's in our God-created self. There is no fear. And so we're not acquainted with it. We don't even know it. And the only way that we can even entertain it is that what we turn our focus away from that which is real. It says, who but a madman would believe that he is what he's not and judge against himself? So to embrace any idea of fear is to judge yourself, judge against yourself, because you were created in love, not in fear. So to embrace fear at any level is to give credence to something that we're not. Let's see what scripture says about fear. It says there's two great scriptures that really can help build the foundation here for this lesson. So we'll look at we'll look at 2 Timothy 1:7 for you Bible scholars that's following this lesson. 2 Timothy 1:7. Let's look at that, see what it says. It says, for God has not given us, or God has not created us, created, or gifted us with the spirit of fear. So here is saying that, fear is a spirit. It's formless. Fear is an idea. Fear is a thought. Okay? Though we may see something and say, oh, I feel that. Well, it's not that you feel that. There's a thought of fear. Because that is neutral. That won't do anything. It's neutral. And we're so afraid of natural things. And the natural things know that we are who we are. They know our true identity. Know that we hold what? We hold the blessing that they are. And we're afraid of them. It says, for God has not given us the spirit of fear. So this is not a part of our creation. Fear is not a part of creation. Fear is something that has been made up from a false idea, from a lie. It said God has not given us that. God has not created us in that. But God has created us in the spirit of power, in the spirit of love, and in the spirit of a sound mind. Notice now, the spirit of a sound mind. Power, love, and a sound mind. That's what we were created in or as. So we are not acquainted in our true nature. We are not acquainted with fear. It is something that is unknown to us and to our true reality. It is unknown to God. It is unknown to our home, which we call heaven. It's unknown to our isness, to our amness, It's unknown. So how has fear become such a seemingly giant influence on humanity? How did that possibly happen when it's not even a part of our nature? Obviously, it's something that we have had to learn. And remember, who we are is beyond learning. So this is something we would have to actually lower ourselves to become acquainted with fear. We would actually have to fall into a trance or dream or an illusion or fantasy to acquaint ourselves with something that what really does not exist. We have to make it up. Remember, there's a difference between what God creates and what we make. What we make is based on what? A belief in separation, which is fear itself. But listen to what it says here. It says, God has not made us or created us in the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So again, fear isn't a visible, formless. It's a thought. It comes in the form of thought. So again, like we said, it's in our thinking that has created what? The suffering, the pain, the torment, the confusion in humanity's life. And the second scripture we want to look at is over in 1 John. I love using the scripture now that I understand how to look at it and through it. I know how to look at the scripture now through the eyes of truth and not through the eye of the ego, which there's a lot of ego in scripture. You have to know and have to look at it through the eyes of truth, because this is an inspired book for sure. 1 John, what did I say? 1 John 4:18. 1 John chapter 4, verse 18 says, verse 18 says, there is no fear in love. Notice now, fear is not a part of love's nature. There is no fear in love, none whatsoever. Or there is no fear in God, because remember, we have learned that God and love are what? Synonymous. They're one and the same. God is love. Love is God. There is no fear in neither one. So 2 Timothy says, God has not given us the spirit of fear. And so this corroborates it by saying, here, there is no fear in love. This is the truth. It says, but perfect love, notice now, or perfected love, or mature love, casteth out the thought of fear, or the idea of fear, or the belief in fear, or the invitation of fear. It says perfected love. Notice now, there's no fear in love, but perfected love casteth out all fear. It says, because fear has torment. It has torment. The nature of fear is it torments you. This is tormenting. It's so opposite of peace. It brings confusion to the mind. It brings confusion to the sight and to the perception. It says fear has torment. So for fear to be any part of God or any part of your true identity, that would mean that God is what? A tormentor. God has fear in his nature. And we're all in trouble. Is that the truth? But we know that's not the truth. God is love. It says, fear has torment, and he that feareth, meaning continually what? To entertain fear. He that continually to see themselves as having fear as a part of their nature, that believe that fear is natural. Oh, it's natural to be fearful. It's not natural. He says, he that feareth continuously, that's what it means, is not made perfect in the love that they are, or is not made perfected in the love that they are. In other words, we are not allowing our true identity, our true nature of love. We're not allowing that which remains as it was created. We're not allowing it to be perfected. That means that we're putting up blocks against it. We're resisting the love that we are by entertaining something else that we're not. And that gets to the heart of the matter. That's why there's what? Suffering. That's why there's pain. That's why there's heartache and even tormenting in the human experience. And it can only be eliminated. It can only be what? Removed. It can only be healed. As one engage in the acceptance of the true reality of their true identity and nature. As one what? Reject the idea and not embrace the idea. But in this culture, we've been what? Conditioned to fear-based living. Fear-based politics is running rampant in 2022. Fear-based what? Theology is running rampant and still running rampant in 2022. Fear-based, when I say fear-based, worst case scenarios is on the rise in 2022. But at the same time, the presence of love and of power and of a sound mind is here. It just needs to be recognized. There needs someone to help point us to it. Once you awake to the truth of this Christ vision that we're talking about, then we understand our role and our purpose to help our brothers and sisters to what? Wake up to the truth, to recognize their original self, the true nature. So it says identify with fear, and you are a stranger to yourself. That means you don't know who you are. And thus you are unknown to you. And that's a sad place to be in when you don't know who you are. You're unknown to yourself. And you walk along this earth, this planet, trying to find your way. Trying to find, like the song say, gotta find my way back to my original self. That's why I love that song. He says, who but a madman could believe that he is not what he is and judge against himself? So when we don't embrace the reality of our divinity, when we don't embrace the reality of our infinite eternal self, when we don't embrace the reality of our oneness with God and with each other, it says we judge against ourselves. And when we judge against ourselves, that is an indication that what? That fear has what? Fear has found a place in our home. And we have become strangers to ourselves. That's not right. And so when we look at a life that is full of confusion, a life is full of fear, a life that's full of torment, and a life that lacks peace and full of heartache and pain and suffering, it's because we are embracing a stranger in our home, and we allow the stranger to take over the home. And it takes over the home by what? Taking over our what? Thought life. What about the power of a sound mind that we've been given in creation? Where did that go? What about the spirit of love that we are? Where did that go? How did the stranger take over? How did the stranger come in and take over our home? Well, we would have to fall into a dream for that to happen. And we would have to wake up from the dream to see the nothingness and the silliness and the insanity of that. There is a stranger in our midst. There's an intruder who comes from an idea so foreign to the truth. So this stranger is an idea that is foreign to the truth. That's how the Course describes it. He speaks a different language. He doesn't speak the love language. He speaks the language of hate, division, separation, strife, jealousy, envy, inequality, superiority. That's the stranger. That's what have invaded us here in 2022. If you look out into the world. And so it says, this is a stranger, and there is a stranger I miss who come from an idea so foreign to truth. He speaks a different language. He looks upon a world as senseless. So this perception of a world that is divided, that is in judgment, this perception of a world that is separate from each other and from its creator, he said, is senseless. It's foreign to our disposition. It has a foreign language that is just foreign to truth. I love the way the Course describes things. It says, it speaks a different language. It looks upon, it says, it speaks a different language, looks upon a world that does not know, and understands what truth regards as senseless. Stranger yet, even more stranger, he does not recognize to whom he comes. The stranger doesn't recognize to whom he comes, and yet maintained his home belongs to him. So fear comes in to take over. So what did that describe? It describes what? An intruder. It says, while he is alien now, who is at home? And yet, how easy it would be to say, this is my home. Here I belong. And will not leave because a madman says I must. Get this. This is saying that in this dream of separation, even in this dream, in the reality of awakening, you better know who you are. You better know that you can say, this is my home. Here I belong. Who do you say that you are? Who do you say that's at home? When you say the enemy is doing this and doing that, or when you say the devil is doing this and doing that, when you say the demons are doing this and doing that, what you are saying is, this is not my home. This is fear's home. You're saying that I don't belong here. You're saying that fear belongs here. When you embrace these ideas of devils and enemies, that's what we're doing. This is just what we're doing. Because in reality, there is no devil, there is no demons, there is no hell. There is no false you. It's all part of the illusion. There is no world, there's no time, there's no space. It's all an illusion. The only reality here is you. The only reality here is God. And you have to know that you are part of that. You have to know that this is your home. You have to know that you belong here. And I'm not talking about here in this world. I'm talking about here where there is the presence of God only. In this presence where there's fullness of joy and pleasures forever more, you have to know that that is your state. That is your declaration. That is your reality. That is your truth. Heaven has become everywhere. Heaven is already here on earth, and you are it. That you become the substance, and that you become the evidence. That you are the I am of God. That's why he said in Genesis, he said, you're the God of the earth. He said, subdue it. And now that you're in it, dream, he says, subdue it. You have authority over it. Everything knows you have authority over it. Every living thing knows that humanity is God's highest creation. But humanity doesn't know it. And so we bow down to that which we made. It's called idolatry. But that's only in the dream. We're waking up, right? He says, and yet how easy it would be to say, this is my home, here I belong. What reason is there for not saying this? Why would we not say this? Why would we not what? Why would we not just speak the truth? I didn't say defend. We don't have to defend what we are. We already talked about defense. No. When you know the truth, there's nothing to defend. You just maintain. It says, what reason is there for not saying this? What could the reason be except that you and I, or us, had asked this stranger in to take our place? In other words, we invited the stranger in, so he didn't have to intrude. If we invite him in, then he doesn't have to intrude. How do we invite the stranger in? It's going to tell us. How do we invite fear in? It's going to tell us. And let you be a stranger to yourself. So when we invite the stranger in, then we become a stranger to ourselves. It says, no one who lets himself be dispossessed, evicted, so needlessly, unless, notice now, he thought. So it comes, so what? The invitation comes through a thought or a wrong thought. See, I told you this gets to the root of the matter. The root of the matter is our wrong thinking, which will produce eventually pain and suffering and heartache and torment. So we got to fix the thinking. And when we fix the thinking, our perception will what? Our perception will be fixed. Our vision, which we talked about on yesterday, our Christ vision, is the fix. He says, no one could let him be dispossessed so needlessly unless he thought there were another home more suitable than his tastes. In other words, we allow the stranger, we invite the stranger of fear into our life. The same way that the prodigal son invited fear into his life, the same way that Adam and Eve invited the stranger into their life. The stranger called fear. The way we invite fear into our life is through a tiny mad idea of believing that there's something else outside of us. It comes through the belief that we are not what God said that we are. It comes through a belief that we believe that we've done something so terribly wrong. It comes through a belief of guilt from what we've done so terribly wrong. And it what results in fear. And when fear comes knocking, we let fear in and we dispossess our own self. We forget who we are. And in that forgetting of who we are, fear comes in. Suffering, pain, dis-ease comes in. What comes in? Torment comes in. We let sound mind out, we let torment in. We let the power of love out, we let suffering in. We let power out. Guess what? We let in weakness. And we disengage from the mind of God, and we engage into the ego's thought system of sin, guilt, and fear. And it begins to occupy our mind as a stranger, as an alien, because we're thinking it is something outside of the truth of God and the truth of who we are. That's the same way that fear entered into the prodigal son, that caused him to leave his father's home and go into a far country and live riotously, eventually losing everything. But the one thing he did not lose was his memory. He did not lose the memory of God. Same way with Adam and Eve. They lost the memory. They didn't lose the memory, but they lost. But they felt like there was something else, that God had lied, that God hadn't shared everything with them. They didn't know that it was already like God, but they heard the thought to say, if you do this, you'll be like God. Implying that they was not already like God. So they felt like God was holding something back. And that's how we are even today. We feel like God don't have it all. We believe that the world do. And so we say, to hell with God. And we go out into the world like the prodigal son. We go out into the world like Adam and Eve to try to find ourselves, only to end up in ruins in our minds. We may possess a lot of things, but in our mind, there's no peace. We may possess a lot of things, but there's no happiness. There's no joy. We may possess a lot of things, but we have a sense of not having a purpose, no meaning in life. This is what we all kind of, this is kind of all of us cycle this process in some way. It's all unique to us, but in some way, that is what's happening. That's really what's happening behind the scene, behind all the events and all the activity, behind all of the trauma and the drama, behind all of the seeming success and all of the good times and all the high times, all the low times, seeming, and we always trying to find the high time, always trying to find the fun time, always trying to find the thrill time, the feel time, and it only lasts temporarily. You notice that, right? That's the strategy of the ego, to keep you on the hamster wheel of looking for yourself out there where it's not. God didn't place it out there. Your truality, God placed it in one place, and it remains there unabated. It remains there unthreatened, can't be attacked. Your reality cannot be altered. And it's where God placed it. And where did he place it? He placed it in himself. And he placed you within himself. He placed you within himself. So there's no way we can find ourselves without finding God. There's no way that we can find God without finding ourselves, because we're one and the same. But I know how we can get so thrown off by religion and its plans for salvation, and its false representation, and its creation of God in its own image. As God is some schizophrenic like we are when we're in the dream. But we can't do that. We can't alter God. And the good news is you can't alter yourself. You can only go and lay down and dream of doing it. And that's what we call nightmares. And people look at their life and say, my life is a nightmare. Of course. That's by choice. But you can choose again. You can wake up out of the nightmare back into your reality. And that's what we're here to help you do. All right. It says, who is the stranger now? Okay, now who's the stranger now? So if fear has taken over our home, who's the stranger? It says, who is the stranger? Who is the intruder? Is it fear or you? Who's the boss? Who are unsuited for the home which God provided for his son? Is fear his own? Created in his likeness? Has God created fear as his own in his likeness? It's impossible. It's a rhetorical question. Is it fear that love completes? That's absurd. Love and fear are totally what? They're anti. They can't both exist. Is it fear that love's complete and is completed by? Is love completed by fear? And is what love completes? In other words, is that what love produces? Fear? No. It says, there is no home. There is no home can shelter love and fear. Love and fear can't coexist. They cannot coexist. There is no home that you can coexist with fear. If you are real, and you are, then fear must be an illusion. And it is. Let me say that again. If you are real and you are, then fear must be an illusion. And it is. And if fear is real and it ain't, then you do not exist at all. But you do. So these are simple questions that when looked at reasonably, we answer them reasonably. But the ego would not have you to even ask the question. It would just have you what? To continue to follow this path of fear and torment without even asking questions. Why something wrong? You said something wrong. You sense something is wrong here. That's what your feelings are for. Something ain't right. But we don't ask the right questions. And see, the quality of our question will determine the quality of the life that we live. And we have to ask quality question. And the greatest quality question one can ask is what? Who am I? What am I? How am I? Why am I? Now you're on the right track. How simple then? See how simple this is? How simple then the question is resolved. Who fears has but denied himself. It says, who fears? The one that fears has but denied himself and said, I am stranger here. We're saying that we have become a stranger to our own home. We have become a stranger to our own reality. And we have substituted our reality for a stranger called fear. It says, and so we leave our home to one more like me than myself and give him all I thought belonged to me. This is what happens in our minds when we allow fear to run our mind. We just give up reality for unreality. And it says, notice now, We say to ourselves, I'm a stranger here. I'm unworthy. This is what we say when we say, oh, I'm so unworthy. When we say, oh, by the grace of God, when we say, oh, we don't deserve it. Oh, we're just filthy rags. Oh, we're just human beings. Oh, we're just, you can't, we're not like God. Oh, you say, oh, we're not perfect. Oh, oh, oh. That's just an indication that we have become strangers in our own land. We have become strangers in our own home, and we allow the alienness, the alien fear to come in and to run our life. And we begin to see ourselves as something that we're not. And we begin to feel as though we are valueless and deserving of punishment. If we don't intervene and stop that pattern of thought, this is where it continues to go, in a place of darkness. It happens to us individually, collectively. I've been in some of the darkest regions of the mind myself, because I wasn't embracing the truth of who I was, even though in many cases I would see it when I read in scripture, but I was being convinced that it was not that way, but listening to someone else. And it took me to the point where I felt like I was deserving of punishment. I felt that way by allowing this process to go to the point that it did. But by the mercy and grace, the truth was brought to more awareness and more accessibility to me. And it was the truth that brought me out. Only the truth. Yes, people can be nice to you and people can do things for you when you're in a hard, dark place. But that is not what's going to bring you out. What's going to bring you out is the truth about who you are. What is going to bring you out is the vision that comes up inside of you, the Christ vision. That's what brings us out. Only the truth. That's what heals us. Only the truth. That's what sets us free. That's what gives us and restores a sound mind back to us. It is the truth. And so if we're not engaged in the pursuit of the truth, if we're not open to the truth, if we're set in our ways, if we have not grown from day one, if we're still thinking the way we thought 20 years ago about ourselves and about God and about each other, and that hasn't grown any, that means that we have allowed the intruder to stay. And we're not seeing ourselves. We're not seeing the world. We're not seeing each other through the eyes of Christ. And so I leave home to one more like me than myself and give him all I thought belonged to me. Now I'm exiled of necessity. I'm exiled from my own house through my thinking. Not knowing who I am. Not knowing that I am exiled. Uncertain about all things, but this. Very uncertain. Uncertainty sets in. That he is not himself. All I know is that there's something going on where I feel like I'm double-minded. I feel like I'm a two-headed monster. And you're not. But that's what it makes you feel like. Back and forth. Vacillating back and forth. Am I worthy? Am I not? Am I good? Am I not? Did God love me? I don't know. Uncertain of all things, but this, that he is not himself. We know that we're not ourselves. We know that there's something wrong. We know when there's a lack of peace within us. We know that there's something missing. That is a good thing. That is the way the Holy Spirit speaks to us sometimes. through our longings and through our discontents. And we come to sometime and somewhere, we come to the conclusion, just like the prodigal son, that there must be a better way. And that better way is at home, is to return to home. Gotta find my way back to you, Lord. This fear, this torment, this disillusionment, this lack of understanding, this pain and suffering and dis-ease, this hatred and bitterness is my heart. Me seeing the world as a what? As a place that there is no good in it. I need a different vision, is what we're saying. And that's good. Some of us stay out there a long time because our pain, our tolerance for mental and physical and psychological pain is high. But fear not. All are guaranteed to come home. And that his home has been denied by himself. That's just the place that we get to. That's where fear wants to take you. That's where fear will take you. That's where fear will make you feel like a stranger to yourself. That's what it concludes. That's what the prodigal son concludes. He lost all awareness of his true self. But it was in that place of what? That place, when he came to that place and got quiet, it was in that moment that he heard the voice that speaks for God. God would always tell you, come back home. Return to your first love. I await for you. I'm longing for you. I have never disowned you. I've never separated from you. I've been with you all the time, even in your despair. That's how the Holy Spirit talks, in quiet voice. Come back home. There's nothing between us. All is forgiven. Nothing ever really happened. That's how the Spirit and the voice of God speaks to us. Always. Always. Come back home. What does he search for now? So when we get to that place, what do we search for? What do we ask for? What can he find? A stranger to himself can find no home wherever he may look. For he has what made return impossible, seemingly. That's what the ego mind would tell you. See, you all done. You might as well end it. Or you might go out and end someone else. Go out and take somebody else's life. That'll make you feel better. It drives you to that level of insanity. And we see that very, very much on display here in our own country, in our modern day, with mass shootings, with no consciousness towards humanity. That's the place that mind has gotten to. It says, his way is lost, except a miracle will search him out. Notice now, unless a miracle search him out, when we get to this state, we're lost. Notice now, he said the miracle searches you out. So there is the miracle that is still in you. It's like you got one bullet left. It's the miracle. You don't need but one bullet when it's the miracle of God that is yearning for you to come home. It says, for he has made return impossible. He said, his way is lost, except the miracle will search him out and show him that he is no stranger now. So we get a revelation, even in our darkest moments, that we are no stranger now. that we are still the sons of God, the daughters of God, that we're still remain as God created us. It says, the miracle will come, for in his home, his self remains. So even the idea of a stranger coming in and you leaving is an illusion in and of itself. And the whole time, your true self remained there. You can never separate yourself from God. That means you can never separate yourself from your true self. So even in that moment of great despair, and someone listening to me may be there, in any level of despair that you might be in, listening to me, your true self is there. In your quietness, is speaking to you. Come home. Everything remains the same. Everything remains. It was all in your mind. You remain as the Father created you. That's what speaks. In our quietness. It asked no stranger in. It didn't ask for you to entertain fear, and took no alien thought to be itself. Notice now, it didn't take the thought. The thought will come, but you can't take the thought. And it will call its own. Notice now, your true self will call yourself. The deep calleth upon the deep. God calleth upon the gods. It says, until or unto itself in recognition of what it owns. It reminds you of who you are. It's only going to come in that form of the truth. It says, who is the stranger then? Is he not the one yourself calls not? Is he not the one that your true self calls not? You are unable now to recognize this stranger in your midst. Why? For you have given him your rightful place. You've given it to him. We've given it over to fear. Yet, it is your true self. It is God, as certain of its own as God is of his Son. Yet is yourself as certain of its own as God is of his Son. He cannot be confused about creation. Your true self's not confused about who you are. Your false self is nothing but confusion. He is sure of what belongs to him. Your true self now we're talking about. No stranger can be what? Interposed between his knowledge and his Son's reality. No idea of fear can interpose itself between the Father and the Son. So it would have to be that the Son falls asleep and dream of this. Because in reality, it cannot happen. Nothing can come between you and God. It cannot happen. Only in dreams of separation. It says, who is the stranger? He says, hear his voice assure you. Quietly, notice now, quietly and sure. This is how the Holy Spirit speaks. This is how your true self speaks. When you finally get quiet, when you finally allow the rockers of this world to not have your attention. He says, who is the stranger? Hear his voice assure you, quietly and sure, that you are not a stranger to your Father, nor is your Creator stranger made unto you. That your relationship as one with God has not changed. He's reminding you of who you are. his voice. He says, when God has joined, he says, whom God has joined, remain forever one. We put this into our wedding vows. But God has joined, let no man tear asunder. And we see that doesn't happen in these special relationships. But we're not in special relationship with God. God don't believe in specialness. We are in an eternal, all-inclusive, all-encompassing relationship that excludes no one. See, a natural human relationship, it says that forsaking all others. See, we have to exclude others in this natural marital arrangement that is only temporal. So if it's temporal, that means that it's only an illusion. Don't mean to offend no married person out there, but it serves when it's repurposed for God. Now it serves a holy purpose. Now it's just like heaven. He says, nor is your creator stranger made to you, whom God has joined, remain forever one. At home in him, no stranger to himself. So today we offer thanks that Christ has come to search the world for what belongs to him. God is coming looking. So that ain't what I created. So Christ has come to search the world for what belongs to him. His vision sees no strangers. So when we have the Christ vision, like we said on yesterday, there are no alternatives. There are no strangers. There's no one excluded. Love has forgotten no one. He says, his vision sees no strangers, but behold his own, and joyously unites with them. Only thing that we can see with the Christ vision or with the mind of God is all that belongs to God, and everything belongs to God. Everyone belongs to God. When we don't have that vision, we have allowed a stranger to intrude our home. They see him as a stranger, for they do not recognize him. When Jesus came into the world, but they say the world didn't recognize his own. But unto them that recognized him, to them gave he the power to walk in their sonship. So there's many still in the world that has not awakened to the reality. But we are the representation of Christ. And so as we embrace all humanity, we are coming to humanity as the Christ, looking for what has never been lost. When we see through the eyes of Christ, we only see the face of Christ in all humanity. Why? We are the salvation. We are the substance and the evidence of what they're looking for. He said, yet they don't recognize themselves. He says, yet as they give him welcome, when we decide to give the truth welcome, they remember. When we say yes to God, we remember instantly. When we say yes to the truth, we remember instantly who we are. He says, and he leads them gently home again, where they belong. You remember the song, Runaway Child, Running Wild. You better go back home where you belong. Wow. Oh my God. This is so simple. Gotta find my way back to you, Lord. And we have said yes to the truth. We have said yes to your will and your way. And we found out when we return to our sanity, that we were on this journey of being prodigal, we was on this journey, a detour without a distance, because in reality, we never left anywhere. We just fell asleep and dreamed of being exiled. So no one does Christ forget. No one does Christ forget. Not even the most, what we might think is the most vile and despicable and raunchy and unlike Christ person that is on display in the world. God has not forgot that person, because he knows that person is what? That person is just living in an illusion. It's not the truth, so he don't worry about that. They'll eventually wake up. It said that he guarantees it. There's no way out. The only way out of your insanity is sanity. Killing the body is not the way out. It doesn't, because that's not who you are. You still got the mind that thought it up. So it's the mind that still needs to be healed. So you're just going to come back, what, for another lifetime. Until what? Until you learn to forgive yourself. Until you learn to forgive God, forgive others. You'll keep returning and returning and returning. You live 1,000 lifetimes. But when you wake up, when you embrace the miracle, it will save you 1,000 lifetimes. When you learn the truth of who you are, it will save you 1,000 years of suffering. So no one does Christ forget. Not one he fails to give you to remember. So now we see our part in this. So when we wake up, we understand it's it is our function, it is our role to take our renewed mind now and bring all humanity into the one mind that we share, and to give all humanity a place of innocence, a place of peace, a place of restoration, a place of redemption in our minds. It happens in our mind. Physically, you can't get around the world and see everyone. But right in this moment, where you sit, knowing the truth of who you are, knowing that we share the same being, the same love, the same mind, we share the same life. We sit here and we hold the thought. We hold the thought of God, every thought of God for every human being. And we see a forgiven species called humanity. We see a forgiven world. We see all living things as forgiven for the dream of separation, and that we all remain in our original state. So we hold this consciousness. We hold this awareness for all humanity. That's how you can fulfill your role. That's how you can fulfill the purpose of holding all creation in a space, in a place of oneness, right there where you are. You can do this. We are doing this in these lessons. In these lessons, we have invited all humanity to the supper table. We hold all humanity to their original state. We confirm their innocence, their wholeness, their completeness, regardless of what they may be going through. And we hold that space continuously until they decide to join in the feast for themselves. That's our role. That's our purpose. And so here he says that what? Not one God fails to give to us to remember. Because to remember our brothers and sisters, all of them, is but to remember ourselves. To leave out one is to leave out ourselves. Love must be total. There are no exceptions in love. There's no exceptions in truth. Love must be total. And we know that it is total when we embrace all humanity, when we see the face of Christ in all humanity. When we give only love to all humanity, no exception. We don't let politics, we don't let religion, we don't let gender, we don't let nationality, we don't let our opinions, we don't let any other things separate us from the love of God that is in what? Christ, which is where we all are. This has to be total. You cannot experience your true self unless you experience it totally with everyone else. This is the truth that sets you free. You won't find it that way in some of the ways that we've been mentored and taught and trained. God will bring the truth to you to embrace it. You'll know, you know when you don't need a book or you don't need a mentor. You don't need anything but the conscious and awareness that you have to hear the voice of God speaking to you in the quiet of the day. Wooing you to the truth that is true always. So he gives us everyone to remember that our home may be complete and perfect as it was established, because without one of us, it's not complete. That's why you saw Jesus talk about the parable of the lost sheep. That's what he meant. He left the 99 to get the one. Why? Because it's not complete unless all are present. So when we think of anyone as being outside of God, when we think of anyone as being what? In hell or going to hell or sending them to hell, or we're not deserving of the love of God. That's only an indication that you don't completely love yourself. You don't completely love God. You don't really have the full understanding. And that's why we feel the way we feel. That's why we think the way we think. And that's why there is this confusion, because we're holding on to an idea that becomes a defense or offense against the truth. So let down all your fences. Let down all your prejudices. Let go of all your inequalities. Let go of all of your anger and fear, all of your unforgiveness. Let it go until you do. The torment, the heartache, the pain and suffering will continue at some level. Let it all go. Let go, like they said, and let God. So complete and perfect, which was established before the world was, is still complete and still perfect and still whole. It's called holiness. You are the holiness of God. You are the holy home of God. This is who you are. This is your reality. And in that reality, you are not asking for strangers. You're not inviting strangers. You're not being wooed by strange thoughts and strange ideas like fear. That's your protection. That is your safety in holding the truth that is true always. Meditating on these things day and night and day. You're like a tree planted by the rivers of water. You're always nourished. You're always complete and whole and fulfilled by the one source that we all share, the one being that we all are. Any break in that, if just one breaks from that, it's not complete. But when we embrace the reality and the memory of our oneness with each other and hold that in our minds. All the world is gone free. All that God has given you, you have lost none. That's what it means. Isn't God good? Isn't you good? Because God is not good without you. You are not good without God. We share in the glory. I know we're afraid of that, but we do share in the glory because we've been taught only God gets the glory. We hear it time and time again. I mean, we've been nurtured that way, but that's not truth. We get the glory with our Father. We get the glory with our Father. Our Father gets the glory with us. We're inseparable. I know that's a big pill to swallow for the religious community, but it is the truth. Until you see yourself as having equality with your Father, you don't see yourself as the true self. You have let a stranger in. You fear that. And it's the truth. Don't fear it. Do not fear it. It is where your peace lies. It's where your tranquility lies. It's where your well-being lies, in the revelation of the reality of your oneness with your Father. And all that goes with that. All that goes with that. You have inherited all of that. Nothing left out. And no one left out. He has not forgotten you. But you will not remember him until you look on all. Until you look on all as he does. And how does he look on all? As himself. Until you look on all humanity as yourself, you will not remember. And that's what Jesus meant when he said, what? Do this in remembrance of me. What was he talking about? Do the work of our Father. Do the work of the kingdom of bringing the reality of our oneness with everyone, none excluded. He said, do this in remembrance of yourself, because you won't remember yourself until you remember that all is one and one is all. There's only the one love. There's only the one God. There's only one humanity. And the divide that has been going on through history, it stops with you. It stops with you. No more judging based on the content, based on the color of someone's skin. No more judging based on someone's nationality or their gender or their sex or their race. No more judging. We all see each other as the same, which we call the Christ. Is Christ divided? No. Is Christ separated? No. Then neither are we. It says, who denies his brother is denying God. So to deny any human being is to deny God. To deny any human being their innocence is to deny God. Now, we're not talking about embracing and agreeing with what someone doing that we know that is ungodly. That's not what we're saying. But what we're saying is what we look past the appearances and see only the light. Because it's in so doing that it helps that individual to see the light in themselves and to make the shift in their perception. Who denies his brother is denying God and thus refusing to accept the gift of sight by which his Christ's self, his true self, is clearly recognized. We are only clearly recognized when we see ourselves as the Christ. His home is remembered, and salvation comes when we embrace this clear recognition. God is not the author of fear, nor is he the author of confusion. And I say to that, hell no. Meaning, he's not the author of any kind of hell. That's something that we make in the dream. God is love. God is light. And in God, there is absolutely no darkness at all. And that is a loving creator. That is a loving father. And we reject anything. We reject anything in our minds, even in our appearance. We reject anything that would make of God an unloving father. We reject anything that would make of ourselves as we were originally created in love. And so we allow love to have its perfect work in us. Because it says perfect love casteth out fear. It casteth out the stranger. And we do this with the help of God. We do this with the help of the Spirit that has been given unto us. And so that's what he means when he say, go into all the world. And share with all the world. That's what baptize means. Share. When they take you to the water and they take you underwater, it's sharing the water with you. So when he say baptize, he's not talking about natural things. He's talking about be baptized. In other words, allow what God is to fully invade and pervade your consciousness, fully pervade your awareness, fully invade your body, or to embody the Christ that you are, is what it is. So wherever your feet shall tread, you have become in the person of God, in the person of Christ. And you say, peace, be still. You can say, peace, be still. You can say, take up your bed and walk. You can just sigh as you look past the stories, as you look past the situations and the circumstances and conditions that people have gotten themselves in. You can look past it and you only see the light. And you can say, you are the light of the world. You can say, you are healed, you are whole. You can say, you are delivered. Because you don't accept anything else. You reject all false identity. You reject all ideas that are egocentric. And we embrace the truth that alone is true. So that is workbook lesson 160. I am at home. So it is true. You are at home. I am at home. Everyone is at home. Everyone may not know it. Everyone may not recognize it, but they're still at home. To be at home and not know you're at home, you would either have to be asleep or you'd have to be drunk or so high. You'd have to be so insane to not know you're at home. That's what he said. But we are at home. He said, fear is the one that's a stranger, that's unknown, that I'm unacquainted with. Fear is the stranger in my home. Not in my home, but he's a stranger to my home. We don't let fear in. Thank you so much. This has been an amazing lesson, and we're going deeper and deeper and deeper, and I want you to be here with me on tomorrow, okay, for Workbook Lesson 161. So my name's Oliver Blue. Again, thank you so much. This was provided by Truly Foundation, your beloved community of shared advanced spirituality, and I'm glad to be a part of it. So I'm going to take us out of here the same way I brought us in on this song, Gotta Find My Way Back. Now it'll make a whole lot more. It means so much more to you when you hear it this time. All right, here we go.
I feel growing inside of me because I'm far away from you, knowing that you are my source, so I gotta find my way. To the conclusion that you are the eyes that see past all confusion to a place called sanity. You take my hand, I'm free. Please, please save me.
All right. Gotta find my way. Gotta find my way back to you, Lord. Find your way back here to Truly Foundation for our next session.